What is up, everyone? Welcome to a different Omaha Eppley Airfield airport update. This update's only going to be covering diversions because I have been tracking so many of them within the last week. So that's all we're going to be doing in this update. But don't worry, I'll still cover all the other route movements that are happening here at Omaha, because there is a new route that's been announced recently. One that already exists, but it's a different airline that's going to start it. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into this because we've got a lot to cover, and I've got a moderate risk that's just north of me, so I need to get this video out ASAP. Starting off, we have a Delta A319 there up on the top of the screen. It's actually diverted from Sioux Falls because last night we actually got some pretty gnarly storms. 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts reported in the severe thunderstorm warning that was issued for our area. And I did observe quite a bit of damage around the city. There's some tree branches that were knocked down and other various minor damage, just at least within my area. So, you know, not exactly ideal, and especially if we've got more storms coming today, it's not going to be very pretty next couple days here. So just have to work through it, and just like what Ryan Hall says, don't be scared, be prepared. So if you're ever in any sort of severe weather risk, always make sure you have multiple ways to get weather warnings and all that, and just stay informed because severe weather can be very unpredictable. Below that, we got a Delta 739. This one also diverted on the same night, Sunday, July 27th. It's actually intended to go to Minneapolis from Las Vegas, but it ended up diverting here. It was all the way up in northern South Dakota before it decided to just hop all the way down to Omaha because FST last night, we actually did get a Delta 739 coming in from Phoenix, intended for MSP. So that ended up leaving pretty late. I think it was around 11 o'clock, which was like 30 or so minutes before that storm hit, and forced the Delta 319 and then also this other flight down here as well, which is a bit interesting. So that right there, that's a SkyWest House Livery CRJ7. It's been a while since I've used this in a video. I think the last time I did was when I had my friend visit me a couple months ago. So it's actually been in the box since that day that we did the unboxings and the airport updates and whatnot. So now it's finally out of the box and here at Alpha 5, which again, I'm just going to be very clear. The positions in which these aircraft are in are probably not accurate because obviously there's a lot of other flights that they already have scheduled. So these planes, they either parked at different gates or sat on the hard stand until a gate opened, which I know for Fargo especially, they had like 8 diversions last night. Even one of them came from St. Cloud, Minnesota, which is just to the northwest of the Twin Cities, for those that don't know. It was an Allegiant flight that diverted since Phoenix Mesa to St. Cloud. They operate that a couple times a week right now, and that typically operates usually in the summer from what I've seen, and sometimes in the winter. But anyway, I will be doing a special Fargo update on that, so be on the lookout for that sometime later this week if I've got time. But obviously my schedule is full, so not going to be a very ideal situation, but we'll certainly make the most of it. And then I'm just going to flip the camera around to show you the 2 other American diversions with the not so great lighting, but hey, we'll make it work. So there on the right, that is an American Eagle CRJ 700. This one was coming in from Washington Reagan, intended for Kansas City, Saturday, July 26th. And I forgot to mention the SkyWest CR7. That is also going to Sioux Falls, and that came in from Chicago O'Hare. And again, that was the SkyWest House Livery. But that CRJ7 on the right, that one was coming in from Washington Reagan for Kansas City. And they too got some storms on Saturday night. So a couple diversions went up to Omaha. So Omaha is a pretty good place to send aircraft to as diversions from a lot of airports. I've seen, Sioux Falls, Minneapolis, Des Moines, Kansas City. I think even maybe a couple occasions some St. Louis flights have diverted there, and then Chicago, and then Denver, which we're going to get a plethora of those here in just a moment. And then on the left, that is an American 738, and that one came in from Chicago O'Hare. That's actually one of the Denver diversions. That's our first of the update. The rest are all going to be up in the B gates, since there's a lot of United and Southwest aircraft that I have over there. So, like I said, it's only diversions, and if you've noticed the red text and sort of the red theming, that's when you know things are serious, because Mother Nature is not playing games right now. She is just going all ham on the weather. I think at this point she's kind of a side character in some of my airport updates because I keep mentioning Mother Nature so many times, but that's just how it goes, and not really much else I can say with that. So there's all the A gates, or all the aircraft at the A gates. So, this airport's still kind of mumble jumbo right now. since all I wanted to do was just a diversions only update. The first time I've ever done that, so that's why I've got the red text theme going on in this video and also in the thumbnail. So if you've noticed that, then that's why. But let's head over to the B gates and cover the rest of them. Swinging on over to the B gates, we'll start with this pair of United Airbuses that are at B12 and B13. A320 towards the bottom of your screen, that was a diversion from Detroit intended for Denver, United Flight 1550. And I should mention too, with these Denver diversions, I did have a gentleman by the name of Aviation LAA, a Fargo resident, help me out with these Omaha to Denver diversions. So he messaged me and was like, hey, there's a bunch of diversions going on out of Denver right now. Some are heading to Omaha. So I just started writing them down as he sent me them screenshots on flight radar of these aircraft coming in. So that's kind of what set the tone for this month's update. I was originally just going to do a scheduled update, but after what happened over the weekend, I just scrapped anything that I would have had for a regular update besides just covering the routes and whatnot, like I've already done the last couple months. So thank you to him for helping out with this, and I will be sure to do the Fargo one because he did notify me of all the Fargo diversions, and I just kept an eye on the traffic up there. It was a nightmare, I'm sure. I'd love to hear some more of what happened with like the logistics and just the overall, just what the communication between everybody that was at the airport that night. I'm sure that was a complete, as I like to put it, a complete fustercluck. And here is probably the most interesting diversion out of them all, United A321neo. So these keep getting wrapped up in diversions. I think this is the second time this month because I had one in the Des Moines update earlier this month, and now you've got this. So, you know, it's just all over the place. But this one actually came in from Portland, Oregon. It's surprising they operate that on that particular route, but I'm guessing they just like to operate them on some random routes now that they've got a good fleet of them. Obviously, they're going to be replacing the 7.5s, so they'll start flying more routes than the 7.5s do, which I think they're already doing in some capacity. But in the long run, these will eventually fully phase out to the 7.5s. I'm really glad I got to fly on one before that became a full reality. And now we move from Airbuses to Boeings. A couple 737s now at the next gates over. 738 on the left, that was a diversion from Windsor Locks. And then the 739 on the right, that one is a Newark diversion. So 737's coming in strong here on the last section of United Aircraft, which does set the tone pretty well for all the other diversions that we'll have, the ones from Southwest. And then we have our Southwest diversions. We've got one 700, 800, and a MAX 8 to boot. So we've got all the aircraft types in this update, which, you know, that shouldn't have happened, but it did. So 737 on the top, this is the other Kansas City diversion from Saturday night. That one came in from Fort Lauderdale. The 738, that one was one of the Denver diversions. It came in from Cleveland. And then the MAX 8, that was also a Denver diversion, came in all the way from Charleston, South Carolina. So a lot of interesting destinations being represented. We've got, of course, Chicago, Charleston, Portland, Cleveland, Detroit, Windsor Locks, Newark, Washington, Reagan, Fort Lauderdale, Las Vegas, and Atlanta, all the different origin airports of these diversions, which is a very diverse portfolio there, and just, again, shows you the wrath that Mother Nature is having right now. I don't know, our weather patterns have just been super active lately, and like I said at the top of the video, there's a moderate risk just to the north of me. It's going to change by the time this video comes out because the Storm Prediction Center, they issue around 3 to 4 outlooks every day on the day one, so that'd be day of the whatever outlook you're looking at. Does that make sense? So we'll be keeping a close eye on the weather, and hopefully there aren't any major impacts and thus disruptions to videos, but I've already got the majority of them uploaded, so even if there were to be anything that happened, at least the trip content, I'll still go out as scheduled, but for some airport updates that may be affected, I'll have to keep an eye on it. So hopefully there aren't any major effects. Typically, I've been pretty lucky with that. I think the only like major disruption that I can think of would be just the one time we had a power outage a few years ago and I had to move a video back a day. So I've been very fortunate to not have any major disruptions to my schedule as a result of storms. So hopefully that keeps going with at least this particular system that's going to move in, which it looks like it's just going to be a big line of storms that's going to pack a lot of wind into it. So hopefully we don't have any major impacts, you know, not just around my area, but anywhere else where these storms are going to hit. But certainly just want to watch what these storms do, and hopefully they don't cause any major damage, destruction, etc., because that's not something that we like to see. So that's all the diversions that we have in this update, and now I just want to cover of course, all the different route movements, and I'll also talk about the new route that's coming to Omaha. As I said, this is an existing route, but it is being started by another airline, and that is Frontier to Atlanta. That service will start October 10th, and it will be twice weekly, so a very awesome movement, and certainly gives me confidence that Frontier is going to grow their presence out of Atlanta despite some of the logistical hurdles that they have, like not having any sort of dedicated gates, because when I flew out of Atlanta back to Sioux Falls, I took Frontier through Denver, and since they don't have any pre-assigned gates, they just take whatever gates are open, and I actually flew out of the E gates, which is the second furthest concourse from the domestic land side on the western end of the airport. So I had to take that plane train, which is pretty nice. I'm not complaining about the longer ride, it just made me experience it longer. But it's certainly a bit interesting to move all the way through the airport like that. But I had no problems navigating ATL, which I'm happy about, and it also did kind of help that I flew out very early in the morning, since I just wanted to get home during the day. I didn't want to take the Atlanta to Sioux Falls direct flight on Delta, which would have left that night, and that would have set me back quite a bit more money. But as for some of the other route movements, I'll just go ahead and highlight some of those here. So of course that Atlanta service on Frontier starting up, which doesn't show up on my website just yet. And we'll just go ahead and move into August, since obviously we're right at the tail end of the month here. So LaGuardia on American, that is once daily 175, and then Delta also having that service. Of course I get the pop-up here, which is going to block my screen for a few seconds, which I don't want. They will also do one daily on Saturdays, but 3 a day throughout the rest of the week. Philly, that service still going strong. They'll continue through November. They've now done, actually they're going to upgauge to 2 daily mainline starting on August 6th. So that's awesome. And then Embraer 176 weekly on Washington Reagan for Delta. Southwest keeping that service going strong throughout the rest of the week as well, but they're also going to drop the Saturday service heading into August. Charlotte will be 2 to 3 daily mainline, and then Atlanta, no major changes that I can see, just exclusively mainline services. Orlando Stanford on Allegiant, that ends August 17th, and then Frontier out of Orlando, that will conclude August 17th as well, 2 weekly up to that point. Southwest still going down to weekend-only services heading into August. Fort Lauderdale on Southwest, that starts January 10th. And then Miami for American, they'll start November 2nd with a 1 daily mainline frequency. Punta Gorda, that service on Allegiant ends August 9th. And Sarasota Bradenton, that will run seasonally, October to February. It'll start October 3rd, that's a Friday. It'll be Monday, Friday. Or Omaha to Tampa, St. Pete, that will end August 11th. And then Tampa on Southwest, last day of service they will have will be August 2nd, so that's coming very quick. Destin Fort Walton Beach on Allegiant, that'll end in September, but twice weekly through August. Nashville on Southwest, 1 daily there, no Allegiant right now. St. Louis, also looking at about 1 to 3 daily, depending on the day. Houston Hobby with a various 737s, 1 to 2 daily there. And then 2 to 3 daily on George Bush Intercontinental for United. Austin, that'll start November 22nd, run through January. DFW, multiple frequencies still there, it'll be about 5 to 6 or so. Max 8, 800s, just various Southwest aircraft again, that's on the Dallas Love Field frequency. And then heading over to the west side, there is the Phoenix Mesa service, that's twice weekly. And then Sky Harbor with about 2 daily. They're going to drop the main line, go down to SkyWest 175s, I presume, possibly Envoy in there as well. But Southwest will hang on there with their 737s through the next period. Denver, that will be about 4 to 5 weekly or so on Frontier. Southwest, going to keep things moving with multiple frequencies there, like 3 to 6 is what I saw. And then United, anywhere between about 4 to 6 daily in that case. Vegas, twice weekly on Allegiant. San Diego still starting November 22nd. LAX ending next month on Allegiant, that's August 9th. And then SFO still the 1 daily, 175 on SkyWest. Delta to Salt Lake, 2 daily 175s. Seattle on Alaska, still 2 daily. MSP will be about 5 or so daily, 4 to 5, all on the CRJ 900. I don't think I did Chicago yet. Maybe I did. No, I don't think I did. So that'll be about 2 to 3 daily on American. And then on United, about 4 to 5 daily. Midway on Southwest, it'll be about 3 to 5 a day. And then Detroit, our last service I'll cover here, about 2 to 4 daily, all on the CRJ 900. So yeah, a lot of routes for Omaha, and certainly a lot of interesting moving pieces here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this diversions only update. Let me know what you think of this concept. I'll try this once more with the Fargo, with a special Fargo update. Actually, I might just do that as a Fargo update for next month just because there's so many gosh darn diversions. But rest assured, I'll still cover any other interesting movements that may happen in the period between now and when I upload the August Fargo update. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.